Like in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, we have the mystery of whether the aliens are hostile or not, and like in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, we have the optimistic twist, they are not. But unlike in that film, this film really builds upon these bases, homaging all their great films, by the way. So they great elements, but adding new great elements to it, because unlike in that film, they are relatable heroes in this film. They aren't just strange beings that create a suspense and make for a very deep conclusion. In Close Encounters of the Third Kind, we don't know whether they kidnapped the humans or whether they accidentally got on their ship, the same way Reds get on our ships, that the aliens are that much above us, or that the aliens didn't value us as individuals. They just wanted to meet us, but they were okay with kidnapping people, or that they wanted to temporarily kidnap them because it was for their own good. We've got no idea. They are mysterious, and their goal for an alliance is vague. The point of the film is that there was an alliance, and how the humans deal with that. The human side of the story is a lot more important. Here, the aliens really have a role of their own. We see that they first want to get to know us. We see they are curious and look around like humans, that they are actually smart enough to initiate contact fast by creating a face to mimic us. They don't hurt any humans. They are just curious at first. They just want to investigate, and they do this in a careful way. And the only thing they could do is cause humans to crash, but that's just due to technology problems, because their technology accidentally shuts down other people's technology, and this happens consistently right up till about the end, where they bring the rig up above the water. It's possible that then the technology didn't malfunction, but that was when they were specifically trying to make contact with humans and knew how to affect our technology through water and how to work with us. But at first they just are moving around, and the humans just seem to randomly crash because they're just curious and they don't want to hurt us. So it's incredibly clear how them being there endangers humans, but that they don't want to harm us, that they're just curious, and that they are really interested in us and how they want to make contact with us, and they actually care about us, saving Virgil and saving the whole crew, and they have something to teach to humans. And also it is very good at being balanced. The aliens are still mature and skilled, like real adults. They aren't as innocent as the E.T. They are ominous, but they are also allies. They are not buddies like in E.T. or symbols like in Superman. They really are just wise allies. It's like if one enlightened people meets another group of less advanced people, but they don't try to impose themselves on the other culture. They're just interested in it. It's like if an advanced civilization meets a less advanced civilization, in the sense that they're both equal and that they're both curious and that they both have problems understanding each other, and that neither is perfect, and that both will have troubles understanding each other, but that they both have something to teach to each other, and that they aren't innocent heroes or perfect, but that they aren't just mysterious trying to hurt us either. And that they really just want to initiate contact, but at the same time that they are mature enough to protect themselves. They are just clever beings who use threats when necessary. And so, oh wait, I'm sorry, I just have to make a comment. It would be like when the white Europeans met the Indians. But of course it would fail, because the Indians are so aggressive and paranoid savages, because they are just born with lesser brains, because they're redskins. I'm sorry, we had to get that out of the... I'm sorry, I cannot believe I didn't even think of that. It's past now. So they say Virgil, which makes sense. People say aliens wouldn't care about humans, but they are curious and they are also wise, as they are highly developed. Of course they do. There's also people complaining that it's a Deus Ex Machina, but considering how integral and pre-established the aliens were, I don't think it is any more of a Deus Ex Machina than any other big alien gesture in any sci-fi movie. You know what my favorite gesture was? That of War of the Worlds. Not them killing many humans. I'm actually over that. No, that they showed that diseases can be good. Okay, I'm just afraid of flu shots. Leave me alone. Everybody has got some fears. People complain it is pretentious, and I don't see why. They show the aliens their curiosity and how they manipulate water and that they like us. So in either version, we get them saving us because they care about us. We really see why they want to make contact with us out of curiosity, and how they cause technology to malfunction, and what their powers were. There is another alien movie that actually is pretentious. Yeah, I brought that one up. Matthew was right. For once. Okay, he's right more often, but not always. For example, when I disagree with him. Also, a lot of people complain the aliens serve no purpose, except for that they are what caused the humans to come down there, and it is also what causes conflict following this, that some humans are so paranoid that they take any contact with strange beings as reasons to fear. It makes for conflict between humans, how to deal with other humans, but also with life in general. We need to fight to protect the innocent against harm. The film is about a group having to survive in the water, but also there's a conflict with the military and them being stuck in a larger war. The aliens give perspective on how to deal with other violent humans and how to deal with strange conflict in general, and make for the larger war. I mean, this is not a conflict with Russians, this is something more complex, and this has a new mysterious and deeper human-minded perspective on it, as it's not just about war. And the movie isn't just a survival movie. It's not just about how the humans will deal with each other, but how they deal with those different from them, and they make for the conflict that ensues about that, about how to deal with other beings that and this parallels the Cold War they are in. It causes the conflict between the crew and the SEALs to erupt, and by making it aliens, it's adds an extra layer of human positions in the universe and what we are as a species, and as we see us fighting each other and fearing different beings and putting aliens in human wars context. It shows Coffey treating them like Russians and him fighting the fellow crew over it, and now the aliens show how there can also be kindness and understanding. And it shows that some alliances are worth building. So the aliens allow him to breathe, which makes sense as they, through controlling water, also learned how to control air, and they create tidal waves to show humans we can destroy ourselves, but they don't do anything as they are kind and see the good in us, which makes sense as they are kind and wise, and using their powers to stop the storm, which makes sense as they are water-based, and they then get the crew back to the surface, which makes sense as they can alter pressure by controlling the water. And so our heroes escaped and saved the aliens who saved them, have stopped Coffey and killed him, get their pay, and survived the storm. Yet I do have one problem. Why didn't they meet a giant sea cow? Yeah, I stopped drinking, but brain damage is irreversible. People have to complain the film has many false endings, and it is a very long story. Okay, time for me to introduce yet another review 1 rule. That is a good thing. Depth and complexity are good, so if you make a film longer, it adds more complexity, and part of having more complexity means having more endings, because that comes with having more subplots. It means the film is thicker and more complex. I mean, God, I know that the Lord of the Rings films got some criticism for this, but those films are still so much more acclaimed than this one, but they are so much longer and they have so many more false endings. And those films are even more repetitive and not as versatile as this one, although they are great and they are still very versatile in their own right, just not as much as this one. And The Dark Knight, Schindler's List, many great films are long, Saving Private Ryan. So the plot was incredibly thick, smart and logical, had few plot holes if any, was for big parts original, was unpredictable and ambiguous, and it was all made heavy and all paid off. And a lot of people have also praised / defended the film, saying that the plot was thick and original, smart, and all of the praises deserved, and the hatred on it is often subjective and unsustained. Unsustained. Just like Calvinism. I'm sorry, but it's just so weak. I'm sorry for continuing to complain about it. It's not even funny anymore. I know, I mean, we've passed the point where my repetitive jokes and my self-conscious jokes about the repetitive jokes and the repetitiveness of my self-conscious jokes and the breaking of 4 walls by 8 walls was funny. We've passed it long ago. Even longer ago than the time that M. Night Shyamalan was still considered a prominent and promising filmmaker. I'm sorry, even I like to make that joke. But no, so many claim Constantine was the first pope, and no. There are many authentic writings of popes in the 2nd century and the 3rd century, and even of the 1st century of claimants, and Constantine is in no contemporary report described as making clergy decisions, even not in reports in the few first couple of centuries after his reign. And the traditions of Mary as being the mother of God do not come from pagan religions, but just from the interpretation of the Trinity. You can interpret if Jesus is the Son of God, but is himself also God, Mary being the mother of God as being the mother of Jesus. That doesn't have anything to do with pagan religions. Many writings and prayers were dedicated to her early on. Constantine just donated a lot to the church and had them make a council that condemned Arianism. He didn't control the council, he just got them together to know what religious group the empire needed to support, because he wanted to give his imperial support to one form of Christianity, and it kind of allowed him to know what form of Christianity he would join. He had no influence over the religious decisions. If he had, the Nicene Creed probably wouldn't have been established, as he did so much sympathize with Arians. He followed the Pope, and many following emperors were Catholics and listened to the Pope. And the veneration of saints is not an adaptation of polytheism. I know I'm totally drawing this out, but no, our saints are important to Catholics. This comes from the tradition of martyr. There's something in between saying this person is another god. There are multiple gods who created us, and saying this is God, and that guy who was killed for following God as well as he could, who celebrated his whole life, helped the poor, and died willingly in order not to betray the people around him, and was a very wise person. He's just a guy, so he doesn't matter at all. There's something in between those two. I mean, those important Catholics were often peaceful, poor, and celebrating, and low class. Those don't adapt from warrior, drinking, adultery, committing gods, and pharaohs of high classes. I'm probably repeating myself. I'm way too lazy to check whether I already made the show in previous videos, but that it's just no, newbie, no, really wrong. No, wait, it's really Dorian. Okay, I'm really sorry about that. Anywho, also what is great about this film is that it has a lot of exposition that is very natural and interesting, that really explains the film's plot elements, and there's an intellectual angle of debating about the issues in the film, like the debates of whether the aliens are real, and whether they should work together with the military, and also on whether attacking the aliens is good, and why Lindsay needs to drown, and the exposition really helps map out the story. Coffee telling the other Navy SEALs that they cannot contact the service, explain why Exo is so irrational, is he's afraid no one can help them, and feels he needs to save the humans, and he explains he fears them as they went for the war, and it makes sense he'd say this because he's trying to convince the SEAL why they need to act. And also very natural was to mention they would get more paid for the job because they were explaining the situation to Virgil and trying to convince the crew, and also that they therefore explained why they needed the help of the crew and how the storm would affect them. And also really good exposition was that Virgil explains to One Night why they need to sub. She probably hadn't been briefed on the whole storm situation because she was a lesser important crew member. But at the same time, the film also has a lot of physical action as well, showing the aliens make contact with them, saving Virgil by going down to him underwater, and Virgil having to disconnect the bombs, the creation of the waves, them spying on Coffee, and the rig going down. There's a lot of physical action as well that nicely balances out the exposition. It's a very multi-layered and very balanced film, with a nice balance of everything, of the intellectual and the physical. It's a really nice complex package. But also it has a great emotional angle as well. So now onto the characterization. The film has a lot of complex, deep and likable characters, and many of them have deep arcs and backstories. And also as little Jimmy mentions in his review of Alien. By the way, the guy's fantastic. If I ever do the Alien Predator films, am I kidding? Of course I'm going to do it. I'm going to reference a lot of his points because he said so many great things about those movies and about the Terminator movies. He's a fantastic critic. I've chatted with him many times. He's awesome. He's open to other people's opinions. He's very friendly. He praised my reviews. He is awesome. Especially for the praising my reviews part. And all the characters in that had distinct personalities, an Alien and Aliens and Predator, and the good and great films of that series. And those distinct personalities would affect the story, and we saw how they also all got along with each other, all their relationships between them. And that is also totally true of this film here. This is all the character interaction, characters serving a purpose within the story and having clearly defined characterization, as well as also many of them having clearly defined character arcs, and also many of them having deep backstories, as much and sometimes even more so than in those films. Virgil really strong. Yeah, I thought it would be fun to bring the joke back as it's a fan favorite. Okay, I don't have any fans, nobody liked it, but these things are just really damn tasty. I mean, can you blame me for wanting one while I'm making this review? No, you can't. Well, I'm doing it, so you probably can blame me for it, but Virgil is a really strong main character with a really distinct personality and many layers, a deep backstory, a complex arc, and a vital role in the plot and the themes of the film, and a complex relationship with many of the characters in the films. In the film, he can be a hothead and be really enraged, and he's hypocritical, acting like he's always calm and always the wise type, but is made three-dimensional. Because he often is calm, and he often calmly reacts to many challenging situations, and this is very well shown in the film that I just talked about, as we see him calmly reacting to the military, hiring them, and considering whether they should take part in it or not, and also to Coffee bossing around the crew and then being stranded, and also when a couple of crew members die by the flooding, he managed to stay calm and save himself, yet he can also be enraged on a number of occasions. So it isn't like he only gets angry once, but is otherwise one-noted. It is well balanced, and he's responsible, trying to make sure the crew doesn't get endangered, but also a bit greedy, wanting to get the triple pay while making sure the crew doesn't get hurt. And he's also open, being personal to the crew, at least open to a certain degree. He's not that open. That makes him extra balanced and realistic. And he's warm, as he wants to make Lindsay comfortable, and is also kindly asking the crew to do stuff for him instead of bossing them around and forcing them. But he can also be grudgeful, secretly gossiping about Lindsay, and he's realistic, realizing that after the rig crashes, they cannot search for survivors, and realizing he's gonna die down in the deep. He can also be really sad, like when he thinks he loses Lindsay.